This is Sportish.
Do it better.
This is Sportish. This is Sportish. This is Sportish. This is Sportish.
This is Sportish, the show about sports that we started during the global sports shutdown. I'm Geoff Brault. He's Dr. Keith Strudler, runs the School of Communication and Media at Montclair State University. Our producer is Mike Wallace. And Keith, it's a big week in show world. We're on YouTube now, baby. This internet thing is going to catch on.
I have heard about the internet. I have heard a lot of big things happen there. You can shop, you can watch stuff, and there's no place more special on the internet than YouTube. And so I think all you thought that you could get on YouTube were videos about how to change your windshield wipers. True story. I once did that and watched that in the parking lot of an AutoZone, and funny cat videos. But now there's more. There's this. There's Sportish live. Well, not actually live, but live whenever you watch it on YouTube. So go to the For the Fans YouTube channel, subscribe, but really find your way to our playlist. And I would suggest, if you haven't done this already, to go all the way back to the beginning and watch it. And the other thing I would recommend is watch it, then log out of it, then come back and watch it again and get those numbers rolling a little bit, right? That's how that works.
So the good news here is that however you've enjoyed Sportish in the past, whether it's on For the Fans, through the FTF app, ftfnext.com, or whether it's as a podcast through Apple, Spotify, Stitcher, Google, wherever, that's not going away. You can still get your Sportish in exactly that way, but now you can also get us on YouTube. Do smash that like and subscribe button. That's something that people that are on YouTube, Keith, say in their videos.
What's your guilty YouTube pleasure?
I don't know if it's a guilty pleasure because, I mean, millions of people watch it every week. I'm a very big fan of the interview show Hot Ones. I think they do some of the best interviews anywhere in media.
Yeah. I don't really watch anything on YouTube other than like fix-it videos. Like I watch how to fix a sink or something like that. I find myself gravitating to that quite a bit.
I watch Hot Ones. Every once in a while, I'll watch like old talk show clips and golf content. A lot of golf content. Shout out No Laying Up.
How about music videos?
No, I don't usually watch a lot of music videos.
You don't like music, do you?
I do. I like music just fine. Have you ever in your life come across someone who doesn't like music?
Yeah, there are people.
No, are you serious?
I think there are people.
You met someone who has stated out loud that they don't like music.
I do believe. I don't know if they say they don't like it, but they don't really listen to music. I think there are people. Look, it is. I'll tell you what. This is one of those things that should be asked on a job interview. Like, do you like music? It tells you something about someone.
Well, it tells you something about someone if they say no. Like if they say yes, it just makes them like 99.98% of the people on this planet.
But if you're trying to eliminate, maybe you could do that.
What would you do if you were hiring? You're a person who hires sometimes, and you ask them that question, and they sit down and they go, "I don't listen to music. I don't like it." And not only I don't listen to music, I don't like music. It's one thing to be like, I enjoy silence, or I listen to talk radio, or I listen to the Sportish podcast when I'm in my car. It's another thing to specifically dislike music.
Yeah. So if someone said that, if I'm like, look, you look great. Your experience lines up. You seem like you'd be a real valuable member of the team. That's what I like to say everyone in a job interview. You're going to be a real important part of the team. I like to use team in almost every interview. That is their cue to them that they may want to get out of this work environment, because I'm letting them know a little bit about what they're going to get from me. Let's get the team together. Let's rally. Let's throw around some ideas. Let's spitball. Right. I need them to know that I'm going to use all the catchphrases in the bank. So if someone told me they didn't like music, what if I didn't even ask? What if at the end of the interview, and I'm like, hey, anything you need to add before we wrap this up? They're like, yep, I just need you to know I hate music. What if that was the thing they added to?
I mean, that's a grade A weirdo. Like if someone just offers that out of the blue, it's like, here's something you need to know about me. I hate music. That they might be the strangest person on the planet.
What's worse out there? What's worse? hating music or hating dogs?
Hating music. There are many legitimate reasons why someone might not like dogs.
No, there's not.
Of course there is. People may have been attacked by a dog. They may have had a bad experience with a dog when they were younger. There are a lot of reasons why someone may be uncomfortable around dogs, not like dogs. I cannot think of a reason why someone would not like music.
You think a lot of people have been attacked by dogs when they were younger?
I guess it depends on your definition of attacked. But yeah, no, I mean, I do. I think there's far more people who are afraid of dogs for whatever reason.
Afraid of dogs, yes.
That actively dislike music.
You don't like dogs, do you?
I like dogs. I'm a dog liker. I'm not a dog lover. And there's a very big difference here. I like other people's dogs. I don't so much want to have a dog. I like specific dogs, not all dogs. Like that's,
so you look at dogs the way I look at boats. Like I don't want to own a boat. I want to have a friend with a boat.
Yes. And I go a little bit further though. I just don't want a friend with any boat. Like I want a friend with a nice boat.
What this is going to take me down a road I don't want to go down. I mean, I don't want to go, but so
I'm here for it.
No, I'm just saying. I think
we talk about your shirt, so it's up to you.
We don't have to talk about my shirt. I bought the shirt over the weekend. By the way, you weren't supposed to not talk about it. The reason it was going to be funny is because you didn't talk about it.
I thought about going that route, but I just couldn't do it, especially because you can't see the bottom of it, so it just says "Best Cat Dad."
Ever.
There it is. For those of you in the podcast, it says "Best Cat Dad Ever." Black shirt.
I saw it in the store, and I said, and it was on a real big, significant discount. And I just thought, what kind of person wears a shirt that says "Best Cat Dad Ever"? And I thought, this guy,
the one who lets their pet cat ruin his basement television program.
So I just thought, so I'm not sure if I'm wearing it honestly or ironically. I don't know. Like it's somewhere in between. So I'm ready to talk. I'm ready to talk about sports. Although are we a sports heavy show this week? You wouldn't tell me.
No, we're not, because we're not in a sports heavy time. So we're going to talk about some sports. The Ivy League is not going to play spring sports.
I like how you made. We're going to talk about sports. Let's talk about the Ivy. like that's as sportish as we're going to get.
Yeah, we're going to talk about that. But really what we're excited to do in this episode is bring back one of our favorite segments from episodes past. For the second time. We will announce our top 4. We've done it with ways to prepare potatoes, and today we will do it with Irrational Fears. So stay tuned for another Sportish top 4 a little bit later in this episode. And also what I want to talk about is something that fascinates me. We landed on Mars, not with humans, but we landed another rover on Mars. And that is something that, you know, I am not a person who is often, let's say, struck with wonder, but the space program and like the accomplishment of putting a rover on Mars, that blows my mind.
It's pretty impressive.
Blows my mind that we're living through this time.
It does open up another venue for a remote for Sportish. So there's that. I also find it fascinating that we can land on another planet, because I think of these planets as just as things that you see and never really address. Like they're just out there. The fact that it's a real thing that you can land on and drive a car on, I find it very, very interesting. I took 2 astronomy classes in college, and you know why I took the second one? Because I found out after you've taken your first astronomy class, the only way to fulfill your science requirement is to take the second of whatever the first was. Because newsflash, I did not do well in the first one. And so it was like when you do poorly in the first of 2 classes, you set yourself up for a real ring of fire to jump through on the back end. I struggled though with understanding the whole concept of kind of the universe, of this infinite space and so forth. So I agree. I find it fascinating. What I also don't understand, and I watched Ad Astra, where of course Brad Pitt, we've talked about this movie before on the show, where Brad Pitt goes out to find his father, who's out in like the Outer Ring. I'm getting that confused again? No, that is Brad Pitt.
Nope. You're on the right movie.
All right,
so far, so good.
The right one. Yeah. And he goes out, and his dad, who's also oddly enough a famous actor as well, he's out there. Who's his dad? I forget who plays his father in the show, but it's he played Two-Face in one of the early Batman movies.
Tommy Lee Jones?
Yes, Tommy Lee Jones. Probably one of his least known roles, but I've decided to make that. It's the only thing I could. What's his best known? What's Tommy Lee Jones best known?
I'd go The Fugitive.
Okay, sure. So I think of him as the original Two-Face. He was up there, and I think he was on Saturn. It was either Saturn or Neptune. And he went and found them at a station at a base around there. Those, I've been told, are gaseous planets, correct?
I believe so. That seems to be what I remember from now. I didn't take college level astronomy. I'm working off high school level astronomy. But yes, what I remember is that Jupiter is a big ball of gas. Saturn is the one with the rings. And Uranus is the one everybody laughs at.
Well, to be fair, I believe that Jupiter has a ring as well, but it's just not. It doesn't have the grandeur of the Saturn rings. The Saturn is all about the rings. Jupiter, of course, is all about the dot and the size. So it's hard to get
two moons of Jupiter.
But I don't even care, like, because every planet in Star Wars has like 7 moons. So that seems it seems like almost like we've been robbed of moons. It seems like everyone has multiple moons. We're kind of in the minority there. So if it's a gaseous planet, can you land on it? I mean, what does that mean? Or you just,
I'm sorry, what?
I mean, if it's a gaseous planet, could you land a ship on it? Or is it just gas? Can you just drive right through it?
How do you think gas works?
I'm confusing gas with vapor, aren't I? Or like,
no, you're not. Like,
but if
how could you land on something that's gaseous?
That's my point. What makes it a planet then? It's just a big ball of gas.
I'm not Neil deGrasse Tyson. Don't ask me.
But do you understand my problem here? We look at it, and when you get the planet, the solar system that you play with in your house, that thing is rock hard. It's a Saturn. Like, that thing is solid.
Do you know it's a model? It's a model. It's not real.
So, but how does a planet, and if it's gaseous, why doesn't it just start to dissipate at some point?
Again, I'm not Neil deGrasse Tyson. Why are you asking me these things?
Do you understand?
We're not trying to go to Jupiter or Saturn because I don't think it's humanly possible.
Can't.
They're too far away. But you know where we can go? Mars. That's not good enough for you for some reason.
No, it's fascinating. It's fascinating. And it was very exciting. The only thing I don't understand is, what do we get out of it? I mean, it's very exciting. I think if the only thing we get out of it is a good YouTube hit, it's worth it. Totally worth it. I don't care what it costs. But what do we actually get out of it?
We get exploration and knowledge out of it.
So tell me a little bit about that knowledge. Like, what are we going to do with that?
Well, I believe the purpose of the mission is to find out if life has ever existed on Mars, like plant life or water, any sort of living organisms. Knowing that,
sidebar on this, I just watched a Transformers movie. I understand that, like,
I don't know if these things are the same.
Let's sidebar. Let's table the Mars thing. Let's table the Mars issue. Very interesting. Thank you for your perspective on that. So because Mars also, I mean, the Transformers movies also have this alien thing going on, which I've never watched a Transformers movie before in my life. As far as I know, Transformers is just Transformers, more than meets the eye. Transformers, robot in disguise. It's that commercial, and you buy. Like, that's all I know. There's a whole movie thing. There's this whole thing, right, that goes on with Mark Wahlberg and whatever, right? And so I just jumped in because my kids wanted to watch it. They've watched all of them, and I watched. It was really late in the series, right? It was very late in the series. It was like, I don't know, like 4 or 5 years ago. So it wasn't like one of the first ones. So I just kind of jumped into the middle of this. I explained to me, because these Transformers, like us to Mars, are aliens. They're coming in from some other place, right? Have you watched the movies?
I don't know. I've never watched a Transformers movie in my life.
Why do they have to take the form of like a car? Like, if they're just giant robots, like these giant machines that seem semi-sentient, right? Like, kind of have a soul. But why are they also like, but I can turn into a truck? Like, why do they need to do that?
To blend in? Imagine if there were aliens on our planet right now. If they looked like aliens, everybody would be like, well, that's weird. We should probably do something about that. But if they look like 18-wheeler trucks running down the highway, no one would give them a second thought. Maybe they're laying low like a sleeper cell.
I was sure you'd watch the Transformers movie. That shocks me.
Why do you think I would like a Transformers movie? I don't
I
like
do- 'cause
superhero movies. I don't like Transformers. Like, it's just not the types of movies that
You
I'm
don't like
interested
superhero movies?
in. Not so much. I guess I don't have anything against them. I don't particularly enjoy them. Like, I'm
You
not
don't
like,
like
oh, these are
Batman
terrible.
movies?
I just don't. They just don't really appeal to me.
You don't like Batman. You don't like the Avengers.
It's not that I don't like them. I mean, I just, it's not. It's not my favorite type of movie.
Do you take any joy in anything?
I take joy in a lot of things. I like movies. Just because I like a different type of movie than you?
No, but everyone likes superhero movies.
I mean, they're fine. They're fine. Like, I have nothing against them, but I don't actively seek them out. It's not the type of just it's not what I enjoy.
Well, now you can't. Well, you couldn't do what I asked you to do, which was to kind of somehow explain the Mars. Why
would you think I could do that?
In juxtaposition to the Transformers invasion of our planet.
There's no one on Earth that could do that. What in the 15 years that we've known each other makes you think that I would be equipped to do that? And then you insult me in the middle. Like, do you have any joy? You don't watch Transformers movies. You must have a joyless life.
You know what it is?
What could anyone do for fun except watch the Transformers movie?
Maybe I'm salty because this past weekend was my birthday, and you didn't text and call and say happy birthday.
You are a grown man. You are a grown man.
Maybe I'm salty about that. By the way, you know when it sucks to have a birthday? During COVID. It sucks.
Well, it's coming up on a year, so just about everyone's had one. Unless your birthday is March 9th, there's a great chance that everyone's going to have a birthday during COVID.
I just had mine, and I didn't know it, and now it sucks. So, you know what we did? We went out to eat and sat in one of those huts, those heated huts.
Okay. What did you expect to do for your birthday?
I don't know, but it just hit home. I'm like, well, this ain't so much fun. There's no celebrating. There's no one can come over. It's no fun. It's not fun. All right. So now you've failed me. Maybe that's why I'm salty. Maybe I was, but I did expect you to have seen the Transformers movies. I'm a little surprised.
Why? Again,
what?
Do you know me at all? Do you listen when I talk? Does this feel like marriage now? Like, what about me makes you think that I would want to watch a Transformers movie?
It does sound. What about me would make you think that I would want to go on vacation to a golf resort?
That's exactly where I'd like to go. Now this proves you're listening to me. That's the only place I want to go on vacation. You're like, do you find joy? Yes, from a well-struck 7-iron. You want to know pure electric joy? Flush a 7-iron. Oh, you'll feel alive.
All right, let's talk about want to talk about the Ivy Leagues first?
Yeah, okay. So Keith Strudler, the Ivy Leagues, your people. Yeah. You were an Ivy League athlete. We've had Cornell Athletic Director Andy Noel on the program, a friend of the show. When we started this show, it was to chronicle, sports and its return throughout the coronavirus. The Ivy Leagues were the first league to shut down their basketball tournament, doing it almost a year ago.
Yeah.
They were the first league to cancel fall competition. And now they have become the first, and I believe only league in NCAA of any divisions to not be playing spring sports. They will not play for the second consecutive year spring sports in the Ivy League. Now, you had heralded the Ivy Leagues for their work getting out in front of the coronavirus, canceling their basketball tournament, canceling fall sports. Do you still feel that way with them canceling spring sports?
Well, I mean, and not only are they counter the trend of most universities in terms of canceling spring sports, and obviously they cancel. You forgot to say we were first to cancel winter sports as well. Like they were the leaders all across. But they also obviously a lot of universities, including the one I work at currently at Montclair State, we've taken the opportunity in spring to do some of our fall sports that we've missed. They're smaller seasons, but it's an opportunity for some of the students to go ahead and get some games in, and they're still able to keep their eligibility for the most part. And so actually great for me because we're able to double the number of games we can air on the Red Hawk Sports Network. So it's actually worked out really well. But I'm a little surprised. So, do I think they made the right decision when they canceled the NCAA basketball tournament? Absolutely. Were they right in addressing the fall by saying, I don't think we can do football because the risk reward doesn't make a lot of sense for the Ivies, particularly look at that particular moment. they were trying to figure out how to navigate opening a college campus. A lot of these schools, and I mean, my alma mater, Cornell, was a little bit more at the forefront of it's safer to have people here than to have them at home. A lot of the other campuses, whether it was Princeton and so forth, they really barely had any students in. So I think they found it almost indecent to say, we're going to continue to play football, which is a sport that really we just didn't know how the spread might occur, given the nature of that game and certainly travel that went along with it. And so I agreed that was the right decision. I was probably a little less sure of the decision to cancel sports like cross country and some of those other games that really seemed like maybe you could do it. But I think certainly, again, it probably just highlighted the fact that in the US, we were far too brazen in saying business as usual. So I give them credit there. I even can make the argument in terms of winter that basketball, the indoor sports brought a fairly high risk reward quotient with them. That doesn't mean that I certainly won't speak against the schools that have found a way to do it and do it safely, that have managed to limit the spread. It does seem like this was spreading more during football season than it has during the basketball teams. I don't have numbers on that. And I'm sure that has to do with the nature of these very large football teams that are training indoors and are, hanging out after the practice. The waves that hit like every SEC school, that probably has less to do with the nature of football and more to do with the nature of football teams. I'm not so sure that I agree that it was right to universally cancel spring sports this early. And I think they got ahead of it. I think, look, I know a lot of people at this point, it's like, I used to be able to be like, oh, I know a lot of people do Ivy League athletics. Now I'm like, I know a lot of people whose kids are doing Ivy League. Like, that's how old I am now. So, but I do have, I have friends whose kids are participating in sports in those schools, and they are not happy. I mean, and that's okay. I mean, that's not why you make a decision to make people happy. But I think they are now starting to say, instead of thank you for keeping our kids safe, I think they're starting to say, hey, if we're so smart, why is it that other schools are figuring out a way to do this? So I can't, again, not being an epidemiologist, it'd be really hard for me to say whether they're making the right decision, but I think they made an abrupt decision. And I think it might have been more balanced for them to take a let's wait and see approach and at least let the students practice. Most of these schools have brought students back to campus, so they're already taking some risk. You and I shared a fairly eloquent note written by the Penn Quaker lacrosse team that basically said, we will do anything. We will wear masks during competition, regardless of whether it's required. We will follow all, any requirement that you say is deemed necessary to keep the sport safe. We just really want to play. So I think if the Ivy Leagues are going to continue to host Division I sports, it probably was an abrupt decision. Now you do have athletes that have missed 2 years of their athletic eligibility. Again, this is not just, if that's what was necessary to keep us safe and to keep them safe, that's fine. But there is some lasting impact. 2 years, half of your time in college being unable to play in the sport for which you were eligible. It's a lot.
I mean, it seems like the safety ship has sailed at this point. Like, we have that information now. We know a year into this. I mean, I agree with you about canceling the basketball tournament. I agree with you about canceling fall sports. There was so much unknown, and there were so many decisions that had not been made, and we did not know the effect of those decisions. That's all done now. Like, we have seen countless models of return to play that have been, and this depends on your definition of successful, that have been relatively successful. Now, if you're the type of person who says, well, if there's one case of coronavirus that comes about from us playing sports and it's been unsuccessful, then theoretically we'll never do anything ever again. And if you like to have that position, then that's okay. It's on the spectrum. But if you're the type of person that says that there is a way to do this relatively safely, that has been proven by, essentially everybody else at this point, I don't understand why that's not good enough for the Ivy Leagues.
Especially when you give the athletes the options to choose what they'd like to do. I fully respect the teams that have said, look, it's not worth it to us. Like I've seen too many teams in our league get, 20%, 30% positivity. We don't want to take that risk, and I think the schools should, if at all possible, kind of still adhere to, keep the scholarships and do everything that they agreed to do. I think that should all be on the table. But yeah, I'm with you. I don't think it's possible. Oh, anything's possible. I don't think it's necessarily the right decision to live in the binomial. Like if we're going to have a case, we can't do it. I just don't think the U.S. has not been set up for that. We cannot handle that. So I believe, and I certainly know if I were an athlete on one of these teams, I'd want to participate. And the other thing it also exposes is just the influence of money and revenue on this equation. You know what the Ivy Leagues never have to worry about? Whether people are going to apply to their universities ever again, or if they're going to want to come. Like Princeton's never been like, folks, we're going to have to admit everyone this year. We're just, no one's going to want to come to Princeton this year. Like particularly now, I don't know, as someone who follows the college admission process really closely because of the nature of my job, the Ivy League applications to Ivy League universities counter the national trend where a lot of private universities are seeing really low numbers. Those private universities are seeing huge spikes because they're highly elite and because they've, for the first year, gone SAT optional. So everyone's like, I'm going to give it a shot. Like if you were before like, well, I'd never get into Dartmouth. And you're like, I'm going to give it a shot now. And so they're just flooded with applicants. They never have to worry about making their numbers. Right. And so that's the luxury they have. They can kind of, piss off a whole lot of people, including some fairly powerful alumni. And it doesn't really matter. Most schools do not have that luxury.
The other reason I was surprised that the Ivy League said no to spring sports is because we as a society have decided how we want to handle this pandemic. And by an overwhelming percentage, the way that we have chosen to handle it, and whether you agree with this or not, this is just what we have chosen as a people, is to fight through it, is to play sports, is to accept the risk, is to acknowledge that there will be hundreds of people in small circles, thousands of people, tens of thousands of people as you make that circle bigger that are going to contract the virus. Some of those people are going to get extremely sick. Some of those people may have long-lasting health concerns. We have no idea. There's a chance that 40 years from now, we'll look back at the decision to play sports and go, well, that is one of the biggest mistakes that we've ever made as a country. There's an equal chance.
We might. I don't think so.
No, it's a very small percentage chance, but it is certainly a chance. It could happen. But we've decided that is something that we're going to accept. If you're an athlete, you've said, I accept that because it allows me to do this other thing. And whether you agree with that position or not, enough people think that way that that's what the response is. And so for the Ivy League to go against that surprises me, because a year into this thing, the knowledge is there, right? Nobody's making an uninformed decision. The knowledge is there to be able to make that choice. And the athletes seem to be saying, we want to make the same choice that our peers in other leagues are making. And I do find it a bit overcautious that the Ivy League said, we're still not comfortable with that.
And there are some, like, not for nothing, there are some fairly high ranked programs that participate in the Ivy Leagues in spring sports. I mean, this is lacrosse is an Ivy League sport. I mean, there's some good, there's some very good track programs in the Ivy Leagues in certain sports. There's some legitimate, I understand baseball. They have some decent baseball teams, but I understand they're not the SEC, but this is not as if this is, I think sometimes you hear the Ivies and you think like second tier athletics. There's some really good elite level national caliber athletes that will not be participating, this will vastly impact the entire nature of the NCAA championships in the spring on both the men's and women's sides. I mean, that you might have national champions that emerge because of that. And certainly in individual sports, you'll see that as well. It's also going to be interesting to see what this means for the future of Ivy League athletics. I will tell you, I get fewer fundraising calls right now from Cornell Athletics because I think the alumni basically have told them, we want you to play. Like most people who have played sports, I think they were very supportive when they first pulled out. And this is a complete straw poll. I have no real data behind this, but almost everyone I've talked to who's affiliated with Ivy League athletics are like, you got to play. And on every call I've been on with Cornell track, people are, hey, you got to play. We really want you to play. So I think it could be challenging for the next couple of years to recruit at that level. Now, granted, look, there's always a huge percentage of student athletes that will want to go there because they are high achieving, scholarly athletes, and it's a great opportunity. But, look, some of these Harvard basketball was knocking on the door of national relevance. I can take a couple steps back now. They are. They're going to take a couple steps back now.
You said the Ivy Leagues don't need the money, and you're absolutely right. But a favorite line of ours here on Sportish is, you know how much money is enough money? more money. And if you read about any Ivy League sport, especially the smaller ones, some of the spring sports, the ones that aren't football or men's basketball, there are very wealthy and very powerful alumni from these programs that will literally write the university a check for whatever number they need to write in order to keep their program alive or to help their program get funding, whatever they need to do. I have to imagine that the Ivy Leagues, their institutions are losing millions and millions of dollars from their alumni because they're not playing sports.
They are losing millions and millions of dollars. The good news for them is they have billions and billions in endowment. So it helps.
Yeah, but I mean, I understand that. And you're right. But if you're the athletic director and when your next performance review comes up, have to go in front of whoever's doing that review and they go, well, how much money did you raise this year? And you say, well, I raised 30% less. I feel like they would prefer not to be in that position.
Could you imagine doing a performance review of an Ivy League athletic director at the end of the year and be like, let's start with a fall sports. So we didn't do a lot in football this year. We were a little behind. Soccer wasn't great. Cross country, not a lot. I would love to sit in that meeting. Be like, all right, anything you'd like to add on that? No. All right, let's just move to winter. So it was a tough year in basketball. Like, what are you talking about? What are you talking about in the performance? Like, you know what, you guys really beefed up the Instagram posts this fall. Like, that was great. A lot of engagement. So what are you talking? You guys did some great volunteer work on campus. I love that. You were always there to help TA in classes. Like, all that was great. What are you talking about? You have to do a performance eval. Managers have to do the evals.
It's a great question. This is, for all intents and purposes, it's a lost year. It is a year that when we look back on it 10 years from now, will just always be that strange outlier.
You know how I know that
doesn't really count.
You know how I know that? Because I didn't have a birthday party. I didn't. You're darn right.
I'm sorry. How old are you?
I just turned 50. I just turned 50.
And you're upset. And you're upset that you didn't have a birthday party. That nobody took you to Chuck E. Cheese and let you play the skee ball.
I had a 40th, and you'd think the 50th would be even more special, right? Because you defied the odds for another 10 years. And so now, I'll tell you what I'm doing next year. I'm having a 51st birthday party, and it's going to be huge.
Am I going to be invited?
Well, I don't know, because you didn't recognize this one. And so I don't know.
When's my birthday?
It's in the fall.
It is in the fall.
Let's see if I can do this.
Okay. We've narrowed it down to it is in the fall.
I see you in October. Did I get that?
No.
All right. Well,
you want to just take a stab at a date, or you want me to tell you?
No, I'll go September 17th.
That's pretty close. September 26th.
That's not bad. That's not bad.
That's not bad. You could be at a carnival. Okay. One of our favorite
I'm really good. Yeah. I'm good at guessing weights. That was my skill set.
Okay. Yeah. It's not as hard as you and everybody else on this planet. One of our favorite segments we've ever done was our top four, when we ranked the top four ways to prepare potatoes a couple of months ago. We're kind of in the sports dead zone, right? So we're going to do it again. Yeah. Ranking the top four irrational fears. Now, these are irrational fears. So it's not like public speaking or death or things like that. These are irrational fears. We're going to go from 4 to 1. Keith Strudler?
So why did we start? Why did we get to this topic? Or is it something we can talk about?
I don't know exactly how we got to this topic.
No, there was something.
We were texting this week.
It was something because something happened that you were like, it's like your worst fear affirmed. Like, there was something that happened that seemed really awful. And imagine worrying about that. I can't remember how we got there.
I can't remember either, but I remember we got here.
Yes.
And now we're bringing people along with us.
Okay.
So we're going to go from 4 to 1. We're going to alternate. Keith Strudler, we'll start with you. Give us your 4.
I didn't prepare because I was working this week. It was my birthday and I was in a salty mood. So top 4 irrational fears. But what we did say was that the fear, to make it like an irrational fear, you can't be like that I'm going to grow 7 heads like all of a sudden, like overnight, right? Because that can't happen.
And it shouldn't be a real fear. Like some people might consider like a fear of, like we talked about in the beginning of the program, like they might say, well, a fear of dogs is irrational. It's a real fear that someone might have. That's not an irrational fear. Like it's got to be something that's truly like an extremely small chance of happening, but it could theoretically happen.
So I will tell you mine aren't. First of all, let's just newsflash: all 4 of my fears are going to involve sharks.
Great.
I'm very afraid of sharks. I'm very afraid of sharks. But my fears aren't going to be funny.
Well,
they're going to be like
a little time preparing. You can find.
My second fear is going to be like when the airplane goes down. That's not funny.
Mine aren't super funny either, but flying is a legitimate fear. That's not an irrational fear. It's not an irrational fear. I'm really upset you didn't prepare for this segment.
Well, here's my number 4.
Okay.
Being on a long airplane flight and not having any food.
Oh my God.
Like you go on one of these discount airplanes
and you're just like, whoops,
and
you're in the pack sandwiches.
No, it's one of those and they don't have anything and you're in a middle seat and you have no money and no nothing and they're like and they come by with a card or whatever, they're like, yeah, I can't, and you literally are like, I got 12 hours 14 hours to Australia and I'm not going to be able to eat or drink anything the entire way. That's my number 1 irrational fear. It's not likely to happen. Why would I get on a plane without money or food? But
your number 4 irrational fear is being on an airplane with no food. Okay. Mine also involves heights. My first irrational fear, falling out of a roller coaster harness.
That could happen. It
probably won't.
Did you ever watch the film I told you to watch? The Class Action Park?
Yeah, I watched it before you. You watched it 6 months after it came out. I watched it the day it premiered on HBO.
I told you to watch that. Just like I told you to watch.
I watched it 3 months prior.
7 Days in Hell.
Yeah, I watched it 4 years before you did.
Well, I'll tell you what. I just told you to watch Transformers. Now, granted, those movies are really old, but I got there first. Have you watched Star Trek? No. Any of them?
Star Wars. I like Star Wars.
Yes.
I never got into Star Trek.
I'm in it now. All right. So you've decided that falling out, that can happen though. And I'll tell you what, the worse your theme park goes, once you get to those county fairs, it's no longer a decimal point.
Well, if you're at a county fair with a roller coaster, I mean, first of all, it's a great county fair. Second of all, do not ride that roller coaster.
You know the ones I think that are really dangerous? Those gravitrons.
Oh yeah, sure. When you just get pressed up against the wall. Yeah.
I've never gone in it.
Don't ever ride a ride at a county fair. Like that is a great life rule. If you take nothing else from this program, and this is a very ish episode of Sportish, do not ride that ride at the county fair.
The only thing you should die from at a county fair is food.
You're right. Is the collect. Now, what if you were on a long haul flight, but all you had was fried butter? All you had was county fair food.
That's a great flight. That actually should be a promotion. That should be a promotion on an airplane. Like, I'm sorry, would you like the deep fried Oreos or the funnel cake?
People don't know Keith Strudler for being a vegetarian or full vegan.
No, I'm vegetarian.
For being a vegetarian, you might have the worst diet of anyone I know.
Oh, absolutely. I mean, I'm a walking heart attack. Like it is for a vegetarian runner. I'm in the Hall of Fame at this point. So all right, so I agree with you on the roller coaster. I think that could be dangerous. All right,
you want my number 3 irrational fear?
Well, I'll go number 3. Here's my number 3.
Okay, so all right, we're not gonna do snake draft. We're gonna have you go, me go, you go.
All right, you go. All right, go.
All right. My number 3 irrational fear is needing large sums of money fast, like to bail a friend out of jail.
That's a real one. That's a real one. Oh, but I think it's worse when you're the one in jail. And you
whatever. Well, I mean, whatever you might need, but like literally, like in my head, I'm like, what if I need $25,000 tonight?
I believe that. I believe this to be true, and I have some insider information on this. There are people who carry large sums of cash for that very reason.
I mean, it doesn't surprise me.
They're afraid that they're going to be they're going to find themselves in a predicament where they have to produce.
I think everybody at some point has done the mental inventory where they're like, how much money could I get my hands on in a snap? Yeah. I think everybody has a vague idea of what that number is in their life.
My number, I think, well, how much money could you get your hands on in a snap?
We're not going to talk about that. Now, here's the thing. If you ask me to answer that, I'm going to ask it to
No.
you. Do you want me to answer?
No, I don't.
Okay.
I don't.
What I
don't.
thought.
Because you were complaining about finances a little bit earlier.
People would smile and nod at mine. So they go, yes, that's similar to the number that I would have given. And then you would have given yours, and it would have been a much different story.
They'd be like, congratulations. So let's not over exaggerate. My wife has a good job. So so I'm on number 3. My number 3, but this is not going to be rational. Getting bit by a shark in a swimming pool. I mean,
okay, that's not rational at all. So many things would have had to go wrong for that to happen.
It could happen. It could happen.
That is similar to my number 2.
See, I need some time because my number 3. So because I don't really. I've just done my best 2 ones now already.
Okay,
and now I'm going to be.
Okay, well, I got bad news for you because my number 2, and I'll go a little bit out of order just to let the wheels turn a little bit. My number 2, it doesn't take a lot to explain, and I think this is one that everybody has had at one point. It is the very scary thought of a snake in the toilet. That is my number 2, because you are in a defenseless position.
You're literally exposed.
And I mean, look, depending on timing, you like it would be scary to walk up to the toilet, open the lid, and see a snake in there. That is not the worst possible scenario. The worst case scenario is that the snake comes up as you're using the facility. That is like a final destination fear to me. A snake in the toilet. It's getting all up in your undercarriage. You all right? For our podcast listeners, Keith is struggling to get it together.
What do you do? What do you do? The pain, the searing pain. I mean, does a snake? I mean, I don't know enough about snake bite. Do they release after they bite?
I mean, again, this is why it's on the list. Like, there's so much unknown. Whatever they do, you can't stop.
Because how do you? I mean, I don't want to get too graphic. How do you then immediately get the venom out?
I mean, if it's that kind of snake, that's another great reason why this is on the list. All right, so you had some time to think about it. Keith, do you have a good number 2?
I think I may have a good number 2. So I often go to the gym, like I swim and I do all, I'll go to, and like now you probably don't want to know this, but because at school, like the pool is open, but the locker rooms are not open.
Okay.
And so I often then go back to my car in the parking lot and then change and go into my office. So I go swim, towel, walk to the parking lot, and just change in the back of my car. Right.
Okay. I mean, can I offer, like, I know this isn't what we're supposed to be doing here, but can I offer you another option?
Sure.
So why don't you towel off, put on like sweats, and then change in your office?
What's all the way across campus? It's a big campus.
Yeah, but why change in your car?
Because then I'm going to the office. I don't have to walk into the office looking in my sweatpants.
I mean, you're already swimming in the middle of the day. What do you think? People are going to think you're not working?
No, I just and I'm swimming in the morning. I go in the morning. So it's the first thing.
So even more reason to just change in your office.
All right. That's not the point. Here's my
It's not
fear.
the point. It's not the point, but I feel like you should do that more so than you should change in the car. Look, I'm just trying to stop you from getting busted for being naked outdoors at work.
I'm in my car. I have always worried. So,
yeah, your car have windows?
I'm changing my irrational fear. Here's my next. I am
Making
changing
it work?
in the car. I'm changing in the car. And next thing I know, a car pulls up right next to me.
Yeah.
It's just a little bit.
Literally calming your pants down.
In that car is the college president, the university president. There you go. I'm literally sitting there naked in the back of my car.
That's a great irrational fear. Accidentally naked in front of my boss. That is a wonderful irrational fear. Yeah, it's a great number two. That's a great number two. That's high on the list. That's better than my number one.
I rallied.
That's better than my number one. My number one might be a little too real. My number one irrational fear is a bridge collapsing while I'm driving on it. That is my number one.
That's a violent fear.
And speaking of like Transformer movies, I feel like this happens in a lot of action movies. That is my number one. And to the point where literally like my palms will get a little sweaty whenever I'm approaching a long bridge.
And it's not, boy, because then when it goes down, it's always like someone grabs onto a cable or something like that. And they hang on, and then Spider-Man comes and gets them or something like that. But it is the way that a lot of people meet their maker during superhero films, for sure. My number one's not that funny either. My number two wasn't until I worked my way into it. And then I was like, oh, wouldn't it be funny if I were naked? Like, so.
You're welcome. I gave you that.
My number one would be getting locked into a walk-in freezer.
Wow, great one. That's a great one. Yeah, which I believe is another way someone died in a Final Destination movie or a horror movie.
It always happened. It's a common one. And so for me, it would be like, oh, there's some ice cream in there, and then you get in, and then it locks, and then you realize the restaurant's closed for the weekend or something like that, because you know how it ends. You know how it ends, but it doesn't end as quick as you like it.
And imagine if you just went to get that ice cream after you finished your workout in the pool and you hadn't yet changed, and now you're naked in the freezer. Whoops. So a quick recap here at the end of our top 4 irrational fears.
Yes.
My 4: falling out of a roller coaster harness, needing tons of cash in a snap, a snake in the toilet, and a bridge collapsing while driving on it. Those are my top 4 irrational fears from 4 to 1. Your 4, Keith.
I'm not sure I remember. What was...
Okay, I'll do it for you. Your number 1 was not having any food on a long haul flight.
That was 4. That was my 4.
Yeah, that was your 4. Your number 3 was a very, very off the wall. A shark in a swimming pool. Many, many questions about how that happened. Your number 2 was your best one. It was being naked in public in front of your boss.
Technically my car.
Yep. And your number 1 was getting stuck in a walk-in freezer. You finished strong after a slow start.
Whose are more realistic and more terrifying?
I think I had the most terrifying, the snake in the toilet. I think soup to nuts.
Is it bad? Wait, by the way,
probably more terrifying.
Is it bad that our most terrifying isn't one that's going to necessarily kill you, that you're going to live through? We've named several that you are going to die almost instantly, and yet the most terrifying is the one that you're going to have to go to the hospital and say, look at this.
Much like this program, you hope you're going to live through it. That's all we got for this episode of Sportish. Thanks for having a little bit of fun with us during something of a dead period in the sports calendar. For Mike Wallace and Dr. Keith Strudler, my name's Geoff Brault. Thanks for joining us. Watch it again on YouTube. We'll see you next week, everybody. Bye.
Thanks for listening to Sportish. See you next time.